Instagram, which takes a sec. Let's see. There we go. Cool. All right, fantastic. So I'm here with the phenomenal Ace, and I'm gonna say your last name poorly. Is it Boggess?
Boggess.
Boggess. Okay, I thought I highly doubt he has it.
People have told me in the past that would be a good name.
That would be a fabulous name, actually. But yes, I'm here with the fantastic Ace Boggess, the author of a phenomenal short story collection, Always One Mistake, that we just made available. So we are so excited about this short story collection, and I cannot wait to dive right into it with Ace about, all right, the inspirations behind this great collection. So with that, I've got to ask, man, what was the moment you said, man, I have got to write this short story collection?
Well, the first story I wrote while I was in rehab, start of the darkest part of my life. From there, I went to prison and I wrote stories in prison. I wrote more stories on parole and in the years of freedom since. And I've been putting them together until I found the right pieces that fit. These are stories about real people. I mean, not real people, but people you know. They're people, your family, your friends, the distant cousin that nobody likes to talk about. They're all in this book.
Got it. And what really kind of first sparked, I would say, the first story, but also your thought of, you know what, I need to make this a collection. And for you, what made this a collection?
I've been writing about crime, imprisonment, addiction, recovery. All these things are part of my life, and so they're important subjects. And I've tried to write stories that go along with my poetry, in exploring that and kind of a journalistic way, looking at how people really are in these situations, what drives them, what moves them. And I've written a lot of stories over the years. I've put many in and out of this collection. I've shuffled it around trying to figure out exactly what fits together to tell the stories that I want to tell. I want to connect these stories to people. I want them to read one and say, "Hey, isn't that my cousin Joe?"
That's fabulous.
I want them to understand my perspective in a way that it feels like their perspective.
Oh wow, I love that. Now, why this collection now? Why is this important now?
Well, you've heard a lot about the opioid crisis. This collection has that at its heart. It's never specifically mentioned, but it plays off of that and other drug crimes and people going through 12-step programs and people who are struggling with other things in their lives that are equivalent. And what's important about it to me is that, again, that it connects something human, that it allows people to see more than just the headlines.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, this is a short story collection. But if you would just kind of dive into a little bit, what were some of the questions that you were really focused on when you were writing the various stories?
The main questions I always ask are, why does this person do this thing? And I'm asking it not so much to understand them, but as a chance to understand myself. I want to know why I did these things, where I came from, and what happened to me. Uh, but some of the individual stories, and one of my favorites is the rehab piece, The God Maker.
Mm,
Uh, I went in observing these 12-step meetings for the first time, and it was an entirely different experience for me.
mhm.
Didn't know these people, I didn't understand these people, uh, and it just things sort of spiraled in my head as to what they're like on the inside, outside of these meetings. Uh,
Mm.
it, it, we all have our stories, and it is important to get to the heart of them in order to know who we are.
Wow. Gorgeously said. Now, you've kind of talked about this already, but is there for any of the short stories, is there one, or thematically, rather, actually better, thematically, um, who are the stories about, if that makes sense?
I I'll put it this way: I've lived my life with pretty severe anxiety
Mm,
that I couldn't understand, and I spent many years just watching people, trying to understand them, again, so that I could understand myself.
mhm.
Didn't really happen that way. Instead, I started to see other people for their stories, and while the characters in these particular stories are not real people, uh, they're based on the reality of people as I've seen them over the years, uh, inside and outside prison, in the 12-step programs, and just in daily life. Because not everybody in the book is a drug addict or a criminal. Some of them are just college students playing a game, or
Mm.
uh, people who've lost a partner, or let's see, yeah, in some cases they're kind of allegorical figures as well.
Mm.
But again, I'm trying to capture real people, and I want people to connect to those.
Got it. And with that thought of connecting with real people, you basically also provide for a reader um various instances of uh tense situations, right? um Situations where something could desperately go wrong. So what what could go wrong for some of these characters that you so kindly dove into?
Uh, Many of them are at the point in their lives like where they're basically Ivan Illich falling off his ladder, uh,
Mm,
where they're going to wake up broken and damaged, and the question is, do they survive?
mm,
Uh, but a lot of them are putting themselves at risk of prison, uh, you know, giving up on hope. Uh, sometimes, sometimes they're just losing themselves all along the way.
mm.
But in other cases, uh, in one case, it's just a game where people are pretending to put themselves at risk.
Mhm.
That in itself is kind of a risky situation.
No, that makes sense. Um, Now again, it is a collection, so each story, I'm sure, puts us on a different emotional ride. What are some of the emotional rides that we can anticipate as we experience this?
Oh, I hope people will experience all the emotions. I mean, there are characters who are uh, really, really struggling.
Mm,
There are also characters who are able to find laughter and hope. Uh, there are characters who are meditative. Uh, there are characters who are just stuck in the whirlwind of fate. Uh, it's a very diverse collection uh, in terms of who the people are.
mhm.
And my favorite points are always to find laughter in the dark places. When that happens, I think things tend to go well.
Oh, excellent. Cool. So folks should look for those. For you, what was the hardest part or story to write? And why did you keep driving it forward?
The hardest one to write was also the easiest one to write. It was called The Burglar, and that's an allegorical piece. And normally when I write, I will sit there with my notebook and my pen, and I will just write and let my brain goes where it goes.
Mhm.
But maybe once every 2 or 3 years, I will write a story in my head, write the entire thing beginning to end in my head, and it is harder to get out because you've got this complete vision. And The Burglar was one of those. It was something that I had almost sentence for sentence in my head, and just trying to get it on paper that way without losing the thread
Mm.
was really a big challenge.
Oh,
But
wow.
kept going with it because I thought it said something important, and not necessarily what I think is important, but I think when people read it, they will find their own interpretations of it, and it can
Mhm.
take many different directions.
Oh, brilliant. Fabulous.
It's
Um,
a little
Sorry.
bit though.
Now, you already mentioned that, I mean, you basically started this ages and ages ago, right? Because the stories were written at different periods in your life. Where, just for some examples, like where were you in your life, and how did you feel like writing those stories changed you?
Well, as I said, the first one I wrote while I was in rehab. Uh, there were about three or four that I wrote while I was in prison. I think the police artist sketch is one of those.
Mm.
I'm sorry is one of those. And they, as with my other writing, especially the poetry, I often use it as a way to ground myself, to pull myself out of the dark places that I'm in.
Mhm.
I like to again I like to look at the absurd parts, the fun, uh, the fun moments, even in dark times. I go back to the poetry because I wrote an entire book of poetry while I was in prison, and uh, the thing about it that made it such a good book was that it was showing all these instances of uh, really bleak situations, and yet every poem has some little bit of laughter, and when you read it, it just knocks you down.
Mm.
And
And actually, sorry, keep on.
I try to do that with the stories as well.
And we were talking about this a little bit before we started the live stream. How do you feel your poetry influenced your short story writing?
That is the story of my life right there. Uh, I never considered myself to be a poet, which is, but it sounds strange, any poetry. I always considered myself to be a novelist.
Oh, wow, cool.
I wrote I wrote probably 15 novels before prison, uh, and I couldn't sell them.
Mm.
But meanwhile, I was writing and publishing these poems on the side and getting hundreds of publications. And my friends would tell me I was a poet, and I was like, "No, I'm a novelist." I would argue with them. they were right, obviously. uh, then once I, once I started writing the short stories, I had given up on the novels. They had kind of destroyed me,
Mm,
and the short stories were a way to keep doing the prose that I really loved, with while merging it with more of the poetry, put it sort of finding a bridge between the two sides. And it's still, I mean, writing short stories gives me a good feeling that poetry still doesn't. Poetry is just part of my life now. It's I mean, it's who I am.
mhm.
But when I write a short story, I feel happy afterwards. And I mean, sometimes it will drive me on and on and on, because I mean, I love the feeling of it so much.
Mm. Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. Um, what what do you feel surprised you the most while you were writing these stories?
I was surprised, I think, uh, how familiar these people were to me. Uh,
Mm,
I mean, again, they aren't actually real people. I have used real people in my stories before in the novels, but these stories in this collection are entirely fiction, and yet they felt like real people to me. I felt like I could walk down the street and uh, point to Jericho Riley, the gambler from Jericho Riley's Luck,
mm,
uh, or uh, you know, might bump in the doorway uh, into the God Maker with her toy robot. Uh, it's just, I mean, these are people that I know, even though they aren't real.
mm.
It's like
Wow.
they're imaginary friends, even the ugly ones.
Now, what of all the characters that you wrote did you feel challenged you the most and why?
Well, I wrote the story about the college students playing a game about serial killers.
Mm,
Uh, and the idea of the serial killer game didn't intimidate me as much as it's writing about college students these days, because when I wrote the story, I was about 20 years past college.
got it.
Writing younger people is not easy. I don't know that I could do that again.
Understood. Now, are there any of the stories that you have in the collection that you almost didn't include? And, what made you say, you know what, I'm gonna keep this in?
The story that I kept taking in and out of the manuscript was the police artist sketch.
Mm,
The main reason was that it's the longest of the stories, and I kept thinking that broke up the flow of the book a little bit. But I like the story so much. It is one of the unique pieces in there, and it was also the last piece that I wrote while I was locked up. Uh, so I put it in, I take it out, I put it in, I take it out. But in the end, I thought it deserved to be there.
cool. And is there one that you were like, oh my God, I really wish I would have included it?
Uh, no, I think this collection is exactly the shape that it needs to be. Uh, I, I think the pieces fit together well. I think it reads well as a complete book.
Mhm.
Now I have another manuscript that I'm pushing, that's all short stories, all set in the same prison.
Oh,
Uh,
wow, cool.
those are those are unique stories, but I I couldn't put any of those in this book because they were all part of a puzzle of their own.
Understood. No, that makes sense. And now, of course, the reader and editor nerd in me is going to have to ask, so for the new collection, did the characters kind of expose themselves in each other's story?
Somewhat, some of them in small parts.
Oh, cool.
Most of the revolving characters, though, are the correctional staff.
Well, that would make sense. Yeah.
It's exploring the humanity of the individuals inside.
Hmm. Now, who do you feel like would fall hardest for the collection or get the most engaged in it, if that makes sense?
I think people who are interested in literary fiction generally, but
Mhm.
crime, drugs, recovery, or just the absurd in everyday life, because that's my main focus is always the absurdity of things. Even when something looks serious, there's always a level of absurdity underneath.
Mm, absolutely. Um, Now, is there anything in of all the stories that when people read it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I totally was not expecting that."
Uh, Know Your Killer and The Burglar
Mm,
the, are going to surprise people. Uh, I can't say much that I haven't already said. The Burglar is an allegory. It's kind of gruesome in places.
okay,
Know,
cool.
know Your Killer is college students playing a twisted game. But they'll catch you by surprise.
All right, cool. Now, if someone starts reading it, you know, what's going to keep them going? What's going to make them say, "I've got to keep reading this collection"?
I think the language is the most important part to me. Uh, I try to tell the stories in a way that is simple yet beautiful. I mean, I don't want people to be turned off by too much
Mhm.
heavy language, but I also don't want them to be, uh, you know, easily easily rolling right along. I want them to stop and think, no, wait, was this serious or was this funny? Uh, and I do a lot of things with words that uh, are kind of twists on the poetry writing.
Got it. Cool. Now, is there a specific like mood that you think people would get the most out of the collection that they
Uh,
should be in?
I think sort of a pensive, thoughtful mood.
Mm,
Uh, this is a great collection for people who like, sitting in coffee shops or have half an hour to kill at the bus station. They can read a story.
mm.
Feel pretty good about it. This isn't the kind of book you're going to take to the beach, though.
Got it. Yeah, that would be weird.
Hey, we got these kids playing serial killer games here.
Right, exactly. In one sentence, why should someone pick up this collection?
People should pick up this collection because they know these people as well as I know them.
Mm,
They, they will see the people that they are friends with, they're related to, and they will feel right at home.
wow, cool. Now, before I ask the, $1 million question of, just one sentence, why should they pick up? Well, you already gave me that, but before we jet, what is there anything that you want to leave folks with? Is there anything we didn't talk about that you feel like we just got to talk? We need to mention it.
I think I think we've covered pretty much everything, but I do believe that if people read this book, they will be right at home.
Excellent. And for anybody who's watching, know Ace's fabulous collection, Always One Mistake, is available anywhere ebook, paperback, audiobook are sold. And I really heavily encourage you to just go ahead, pick it up. To Ace's point, you can knock out a short story in, a half hour, a little bit of time you got, and just really get a lot of fulfillment and just whip through it. So with that, Ace, I just want to thank you. As always, you're fabulous. And, looking forward to seeing the next set.
Thank you. It's great talking to you.